So, Emily, what do the TruthWorks and Tokyo have in common this week?
So many answers are possible, but I think what you're getting at is the 4-day week.
Great. Ding, ding, ding.
Ah, got it.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that it's an interesting move from Tokyo, having been there and seen all the salarymen and women sort of sleeping after work, falling asleep on the train on the way home. It's a culture of really high productivity, high work ethic, hierarchy. You don't leave till after the boss has left. So it's a big move for them.
And I think they are a culture that for a long time has glorified overwork.
Yeah.
So it actually feels like if Japan can do it,
exactly.
Like, why isn't everybody else? But what's fascinating, I think, at the heart of this discussion is that this isn't just about engagement, flexibility. They're actually hoping more time off equals more babies.
Yeah, it's an imperative because they are seeing the replacement rate at risk.
Yeah,
so,
and are they the world's oldest country?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, the challenge is declining birth rates, mainly driven by the fact that this is a society that makes it very difficult for parents to have that flexibility, especially women who carry a lot of the domestic load.
5 times more unpaid work in Japan is done by women than men.
Do you think that is because of the work ethic and the
I think it will play
culture?
a massive factor in it, yeah. And Microsoft Japan have just done a 4-day week trial and they found productivity raised by 40% from dropping from 5 to 4. And that's not news to us. That's something that we know. It's the UK did it, and I think 92% of the companies in that trial have all retained it because they've seen massive improvements in productivity, engagement, and colleague retention. Yeah. So I can completely see why they're doing it. I did find it fascinating, and I found it quite confronting also to look at it through the lens of societal impact rather than just an employee experience lens.
Yeah, it's become an imperative to actually keep the population at the levels to replace them, to keep society functioning. Yeah. And I think that is so interesting when you get into the impact that work has on society and those work norms and those negative impacts as well.
And that's something that we feel really passionate about. We set our business up as a 4-day week business. I remember as if it was yesterday, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, saying, you and I both wanted to work a 4-day week because we had young children that we wanted to spend some time with. And we talked about, are you going to work Monday through Thursday and I'll work Tuesday through Friday and the 5 days will be covered. And I think that was probably one of our first bold calls, aside from moving me over to the Netherlands. I think that was one of our first sort of bold takes, which was, no, we actually do believe that a 4-day week will drive better outcomes for us and for the people that work for us.
So having that 4-day structure being synced and the Friday being just a non-working day, we have very clear boundaries, clients
and it's not compressed
know.
hours, it's not flexi time, it is the business is closed on a Friday, which is a pretty bold decision, especially for a young starting consultancy as it was at that point.
And obviously getting clients on board with that when you're onboarding new clients and saying, look, these are our working hours, please respect our boundaries, but you also realise that the trade-off is you will get our full focus for 4 days. You will never have a team that is more on it. And we will make sure that we get you what you need before we sign off for the week.
And you've used the word focus there, and that's the word for me that I think is synonymous with a 4-day week. And that's why I'm proud to have a business that is a 4-day week, because I think most businesses don't have a time problem, they have a focus problem. And what we've found is when you've taken away that 5th day, what we're asking for is greater focus. Now, what that means as employers and as organizations is we have to take things away that reduce focus. And this is why I think it's something that will be really hard for a lot of businesses, because it's quite exposing. It shines a light on duplication, on lack of clarity, on poor comms, on passengers, on coasters, on rubbish leadership,
on inefficiencies in general,
on
basically.
Inefficiencies. And I think it gets you to a point of sort of saying, when you strip those things out, you actually allow your people to do their best work. And it relies on your people being able to ruthlessly prioritize. But you have to help them be able to prioritize. And I think that's part of our role, is making sure that our team have got the space and tools to do that proper focus time.
Definitely. I think that's why employers are so put off by the idea, partly, is this perception that it's going to be an easy ride or a coast. And actually, I think it's the opposite.
Quite right. And I think it's actually something even in our sort of employer branding that I've sort of changed when I talk about our business, because at the beginning, I used to talk about the 4-day week being a perk. And actually now I mean, there's parts of it that's a perk, of course, but for me, the 4-day week is not a gift, it is a trade. And so there are trade-offs and payoffs that have to be had. For me, it's like more freedom, more impact, more flexibility, more efficiency. All of these things are trades that I expect people to make. And my biggest one, I think, is if you're going to have a 3-day weekend, you have to earn it in 4 days. And essentially it requires, I think, higher pressure. I think it requires more intensity in your week. And I think it involves working with a deep focus that a lot of people can't or don't want to or can only do for short periods of time.
It's absolutely not for everyone. I think that is the thing we always say when we're recruiting and we're talking to talent, is we're not offering you a part-time job.
Yeah.
We are basically saying we work in this way. It's hyper-focused, it's efficient, everyone pulls together, everyone makes sure they work in sync to get what we need out the door by a Thursday, because none of us want to be responsible for our colleagues' time bleeding into a Friday, which is meant to be off. So we really value those boundaries. But it does require that really close collaboration. And I think if you've got a team that isn't functioning together in that way, it just doesn't work.
Yes, because I think you need high trust to do that, don't you? And you've got to have a high performing, high trust, high impact team. And that's really easy to say, but a lot harder to build and maintain.
Absolutely.
We even find that ebbs and flows in our business. And this is a business that's small and was set up to do the 4-day week. Much easier to set something up with the policies and plans and comms structures than it is to then retrospectively try and apply it. I've got a lot of respect for the companies that have done 5 and are now doing 4.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sophie on our team told me the other day about someone she met whose business was a 4-day week, but actually when employees start, they start on 5 days.
Right. To adjust.
And I thought, how interesting, because I have seen for some people in our business, that shift from 5 to 4 actually being quite hard.
Yeah.
Finding that constant pressure and focus and intensity hard, and for some people a little bit unsustainable, but also sort of not knowing what to do with a third day off. A third day of the weekend, and sort of taking time to break out of an existing societal norm and habit, which is expecting to be working 5 days a week.
And to be productive on that day as well. Because I think what we also say to our talent sometimes is, if you've had an intense 4-day week, you might need to use some of that 5th day for rest and recovery.
Correct.
And actually, especially with the parents or with people who have other caring responsibilities or, have a side hustle, they try and fit more productivity into that 5th day. And actually then that becomes unsustainable because then you're working at high intensity for 5 days. So I think every model is different, and I'm super interested to hear about other models as well. And maybe as a result of this conversation, we'll hear from some other people who are trialing different things and have found certain things work or not. But I think there's definitely something in it. And what's interesting is the work week used to be 6 days.
Right.
We have adapted as a society. It's just that change is hard and anything new feels insane.
And I think also that these long working weeks, if we take it from a family perspective, these long working weeks were a thing when one person was expected to be at home, basically carrying the domestic load. And I've really noticed since being a parent how unsustainable it is having 2 full-time working parents when you've got children, house, basically the invisible load of being a parent and a homeowner.
Well, the system doesn't set you up to succeed.
It doesn't.
That's also what Tokyo are trialing, is a shorter day. So a couple of hours.
Yes, for some people, 2
separate.
hours, reduced days. Really interesting.
Which I think will make a difference also.
I think the 2 big things that are needed in a 4-day week is trust and ownership. And those are almost empty words now. We hear them so much in the corporate context, especially around the sort of values and behaviors. But I truly don't think you can run a 4-day week business without those two things. That it doesn't work if you don't finish what you need to finish in 1 week to then let it bleed into the next week, because that has a cumulative effect, and you'll get to a point of it not working. You have to own your stuff within the 4 days that you have. And if you haven't owned it, then you need to find a way, maybe you do have to work that Friday morning this one time, or maybe you do have to get up early on that Monday to finish it, because I think you are, in our business anyway, it's self-driven. You own your stuff. There's lots of support, there's lots of communication, there's lots of leadership visibility, but ultimately you're responsible for it.
But I think that trust piece is the second piece, because you can't own every aspect of a process.
You can do everything, but not all at once.
If someone else lets you down in that process, then you also can't deliver what you need to deliver. So you have to have that ultimate trust between people to say, you're going to get me the thing I need so that I can finish the task I need to finish.
Within the boundaries that we've set for each other. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's easier in a smaller business. So will more businesses take it up, do you think?
I think it's going to go two different ways. I think you're still going to see businesses rolling things back, pulling people back into the office, demanding longer hours again, especially with the tech race, which I know we're going to talk about. But I think those businesses will also have one eye on what other more progressive businesses are doing. And I think there will still be an interest in this data, these studies that are showing a different way. Unfortunately, I think the way the world is at the moment, people will be looking for that productivity, that focus, but in a 5-day week.
5 or 6. Yeah, I think you're probably right.